Hi, everyone, and welcome to Capella's Industry Insights podcast. I'm here today with Kevin Gillen, Business Operations and Development at TailorBird. Thanks for joining us, Kevin. Would you mind just taking a second and telling us about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, I help to run the business operations team at TailorBird. We are a almost 3-year-old Series A backed software startup. My background's in real estate investment and development in the Mid-Atlantic region. Um, Primary focus on new development projects in the Philadelphia area. When we were getting started, TailorBird, I was a part of the team who kind of brought that perspective to the what we were trying to match with artificial intelligence, machine learning, in order to improve value add renovation project timing, cost effectiveness, and streamlining that entire process.
Great. And what is it that TailorBird does, if you don't mind just sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the problem we're trying to solve is the time it takes to renovate. We are solely focused on multifamily asset class um, properties. And in our mind, in my experience, the process through which renovation happens for those assets is completely linear. Um, Investors are starting with their financial models. As soon as you evaluate a property that you think is worth pursuing, you're spending, let's say, a week modeling, you're going out to raise money. You then finally get to a point where you are site walking the project. You're still not necessarily even a finalist to acquire it. Um, and you're putting in as many as 50 to 300 man hours just to get to that point. From there, you're taking it a little bit more seriously, still linear. You incorporate a design package, you work up a scope, all of which is consistently getting changed as you get closer and closer to perhaps winning that property. And then you finally start with contractor meetings. You have your scope, you have your budget, and all of this going through the point that you're inviting 3, 4, or 5 contractors to bid on the project is taking as many as 450 man hours in our conservative estimation. Some people do this over the course of 3 months. In certain cases, it takes 6 until you're finally swinging hammers. With TailorBird, we want to take that linear process, flip it up. We want to become a one-stop single source of truth. And all we ask for is a property address. With that, we're able to help get through all of those processes with one product that allows you to start, get towards a construction contract in as little as 2 to 3 weeks.
Right. Yeah. So I think as a general contractor, we face a lot of similar problems, like you said, where those man hours into going into bids and all of that. And we get really frustrated on our end when we have 2 or 3 people that we're competing with on a bid, and everyone is kind of has a different style of bid, and we're comparing apples to oranges. So, what challenges do property owners face when they're preparing an RFP and trying to get kind of equivalent bids across the board? And I know you've seen a ton of different bids. So do you see anything that is a
Yeah.
challenge for these?
Well, that's the perfect question. That's where we kind of get into the problem we're solving for both the demand and the supply side in terms of this transaction. You have the demand side, owner of the property, the supply side, Global Construction, who is participating in the bid process as a good actor, spending weeks of their time making sure they have all their T's crossed, and then submitting with their eyes closed against somebody else who's done the same thing but taken on a completely different approach. Once you have this property under contract or you already own it and you go out to these 3, 4, or 5 GCs to bid the job, there's, in my mind, behavior that we are hoping to improve for both sides. On the GC, on the supply side for the general contractors, you're getting 5 submissions on 5 different letterheads. You're relying on everyone's different interpretation of, let's just say, a Microsoft Word document that consists of 20 bullet points to read that scope and understand at a detailed level what you're hoping to do in terms of the renovation project. And then once that's submitted, you're sending it down the line to your 25-year-old analyst and hoping that in 2 weeks they can take someone's interpretation of the plumbing scope and match it exactly with 4 others. Now, if someone's overall price is just, 150% higher than the next lowest bidder, you can do away with them, but they're still trying to, what we refer to as, level these bids over the course of days, weeks. That's labor and man hours that could otherwise be spent doing something much more critical to that project. And then on the other owner side, there's action that we see where you're asking a GC to go out, put their best foot forward, submit a bid, but really you're just shopping 3 out of the 4 guys. You shop participation to drive down costs for your friendly contractor who you like to use on your other projects. You don't really care about the level of detail that was put in, the time that was spent, the resources and man hours that were allocated in order to just get that low number who you're going to feed back to your buddy and drive down costs. We're not going to change that behavior. We're aware of that. But what we can do is give contractors the ability to bid significantly faster, know that their bid is it looks exactly how everyone else's does, have confidence that every component of the bid is being captured in their numbers, and helps shed light on their behalf to the ownership groups that may not have otherwise taken them extremely seriously throughout the process.
Yeah. And I think that brings us to another great point is a lot of times it's hard as a general contractor to come up with an accurate bid when we have incomplete plans. So what can we do, or what can a property owner do to have a better takeoff for all of these general contractors to create an equal bid?
Right. So here's what a property owner could do. They could task someone to spend days, weeks walking every floor plan type. Let's just call it 2 of every floor plan type um, at a respective asset, calculating takeoffs based on their tape measure, laser pointer, however you want to, whatever we're calling it. Organize those on a sheet of paper, share those exactly with the GCs, and say, here are your takeoffs that we want you guys to bid off based on that. Bid leveling is not a new concept. People can try and do it. People have done it for as long as this asset investment approach has been undertaken. What we do is we apply artificial intelligence, machine learning, photo vision technology to set. We're not inventing it. We're just kind of reapplying it. It's what a Tesla car uses to see the road. We are able to access public information. Let's say there's about 500 million photos, floor plans, property reviews online, Facebook, Vimeo, YouTube, an angry tenant who took a picture of their kitchen with a cockroach in it. We're able to access all of this stuff. We take that, we apply it to a photo vision software, which essentially flattens photos, scales floor plans, and our architecture team runs it through very critical QA, QC processes, and we develop these plans, takeoffs, in about 2 days. Depending on how many floor plans there are, we're doing this in about 36 to 60, 75 hours. We'll ingest what scope, specs, SKUs you do have, and we'll merge that with those takeoffs, put together a leveled bid. Everyone sees exactly the same thing. We're able to go out to bid in a few days. So that's sort of the problem we're hoping to solve with the takeoff component of the projects as well.
Right. Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about bid leveling right now. And a lot of times we find that property owners will go with the lowest bidder. Even if the bids are somewhat leveled, people tend to lean towards that lower price.
Absolutely.
So a lot of times those lower bids are somewhat incomplete and lead to future change orders. So how do these accurate takeoffs help with future change orders?
So once we complete the architectural component of what we're doing on the front end, we merge that with scope, specs, and SKUs. We organize scope in accordance with what we refer to as various categories. I'm going to share my screen and show an example of one of these projects. Here's one we've worked on with Global in the past. I took the name of the project out, but with all of this information we're able to ingest, we automatically populate this file here. We start with what exactly the renovation category is, move over to what the scope is, what items we're referring to. So in this case, they're replacing cabinet box sets. We want to get material and labor pricing. This is all part of the same inventory. Inventory is a fancy way for us to allocate whether or not it's a full scope or partial scope project. And then we describe the actual material in as much detail as is provided to us. We have software that allows us to automatically ingest this information, merge that with the architectural takeoffs that I was explaining earlier, and this is essentially the result of merging those two things together.
Right.
We provide participants with exactly what the unit of measurement is for each scope item, and then we require them to list. We prefer a unit of measurement price that then gets populated for every single floor plan.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, to answer your question, we don't want anyone overlooking any scope items. This to us is as complete a bid as you are going to find for this property based on, like I mentioned before, let's say we get a Word doc with an outline on it. Well, what about your scope specs SKUs? Or sorry, your specs and SKUs. They share with us an Excel file with a picture and a description of everything. All of that gets put together. We make sure we get as much clarity as possible where things are outstanding. And where, say, there's an alternate request for an as-needed improvement, we just add that to our alts tab here. And when people are bidding, we require that they either submit a cost of 0 or a simple INC. You can kind of see the note here. And if they don't have that, their submission is not accepted. A lot of this is done through Google Sheets. We have a great engineering team who's worked to kind of get us out of Excel into Google Sheets. It's an extremely effective way for us to require acknowledgement on the part of all actors involved that they've read, understood, and bid the scope. We don't want to change how people bid. Methodology is not as important to us as an apples to apples comparison. So let's just say one guy likes to bid countertops by having broken out material and labor. Let's look at the countertop scope here. Countertops is a white quartz 3cm. Overall, we try and, people are trying to target, let's say, an 82 number for that, $82 a square foot. So they're going to throw a 40 and a 42 in here. Mm-hmm. Their weighted average per unit gets calculated. If this looks right to them, let's just say this countertop number at $2,700 works. That's great. Otherwise, just throw that in, the 82, and zero out the other one. You're allowed to submit. We don't want to change the way bids are evaluated. We just want to change the fairness through which they're reviewed by people, submitted by people, and give the owners an incredibly detailed approach to making an educated decision as to who wins the job.
Right. Yeah. So when global, I think another, we're uncovering a lot of challenges here for us compared to others. But when we use TailorBird, we tend to have an extremely accurate bid. However, not every other GC is using TailorBird and getting those extremely accurate bids. So how can a property owner understand the value that we're providing in a bid compared to someone who's just doing this all by hand and maybe making some educated guesses on measurements, counts, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Well, to us, the scenario you are laying out would be that Global comes to TailorBird. Global tells TailorBird, we'd like for you to prepare this project for us, and you go out to an ownership group who hasn't engaged us. That is that's a not the most common circumstance for us.
Right.
Typically, when Global's working with TailorBird, we've been engaged by an owner.
Okay.
And we go out to 5 of our in-network contractors. Let's just say it's a Denver-based job. Global is one of our best Denver-based contractors. They're definitely going to be getting the opportunity to participate there. They're seeing exactly the same thing that every other contractor is seeing. Down the street, another owner who hasn't engaged TailorBird comes to Global, asks for a bid, and Global wants to submit through TailorBird. What we've found is that the quality of our product, the level of detail that's being submitted, and especially the architectural shop level drawing plans that are corresponding with your bid are enough of an incentive to ownership groups to engage further with Global. Think of it as not just a bidding tool, not just a marketing tool, but a sales approach to be able to sell yourself as a not just someone who has a history of executing well on projects, but a thorough and extremely efficient, fast understanding of the property before anybody else has stepped foot on site.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I can't vouch for owners in terms of what they want to do if someone were to come in, write on a piece of paper, underbid the job, and instead of taking what Global has put down and submit it. But in our experience, kind of running projects in reverse like that, the quality the quality of our product that's being submitted is enough to at least get you in the door. And get you on site, be taken seriously as a finalist for that project.
Okay. Yeah. So let's go back to the kind of the main option that you're seeing where the property owner comes to you to receive equal bids from all of their general contractors. I'm pretty sure, is Cole Rich one of your kind of golden
Yeah,
boys for that? So
uh,
let's
yeah, they're a great customer of ours.
yeah, so let's talk about Cole Rich then. If they came to you and requested takeoffs to send out to 3 to 5 general contractors, what kind of benefits are they seeing from that, and how close are the 3 to 5 bids that they're receiving from general contractors?
Okay. So just as an example in general, they're coming to us for, yes, takeoffs. They're also coming to us as a bidding tool. And our product, the way I try and articulate this, it evolves from a bidding tool to a project management tool. So you have a couple questions in there. They're coming to us to bid. We go out to 3 to 5 GCs. Everyone sees the same exact thing. Shop level drawing details. All the takeoffs are exactly the same. Everyone bids on exactly the same scope. Bids are submitted to Coleridge, for example, in under 2 weeks. They haven't had to do much more than just provide us with detail on the project, the property address, the rent roll. If you give us that, we have everything we need to get them hard leveled bids in about 9 to 12 days. Now, from there, they're able to recognize, to your point, who's taking this process seriously, who do we trust, and yes, who's most competitive in their numbers. Typically, the field gets narrowed at that point from 5 to 2. It's usually a mix of those qualities that I just mentioned. I trust these guys, their bid looks great. They might be a little bit higher. And then you have this guy over here who's $1,000 cheaper per unit. Those folks are then invited to walk the site, mark up our drawings, provide us with any variance they find for any renovation component throughout the unit, all of which is covered by our walk sheets. And then once we get that, we update your final takeoffs. You have the opportunity to interview with the ownership group, and they make an extremely educated decision as to who the winner is there. It is often the low bidder. I am very happy to report, though, that that is not always the case. Especially recently, trust is an extremely important component of what we're building with our customers, what we're building with our operating partners like Global. It's really important that the folks who are selected to run the job are going to execute based on what they've provided. So what ownership groups will see is a level of detail in any sort of questioning, any sort of comment that's made on the bid, things that are realized on a site walk, and it instills a sense of confidence in them to make that selection. Now, what we're promising to the ownership groups is not just that piece of it, but also what we find for the most part is that there's a cost savings purely driven by transparency. If you're going out to 5 people and you're not giving them the ability to hide little things in their bid behind a letterhead, and you're giving Global the ability to, show off exactly what level of detail they know about the project, that usually just cross industry is going to lead to anywhere from 4 to 10% cost savings based on just what they budgeted for the project going into it. Has nothing to do with what you guys are bidding. And that's the second component to what we're doing. Instill confidence, build trust, and if everything goes according to plan, it ends up leading to cost savings. Now, on those plans that were marked up, gone into the best and final bid, the next thing, the evolution I talked about before, is that this becomes for Global. Let's say Global wins a job, they're on site, they have these final drawings that TailorBird had provided to them. You walk into a floor plan, the respective unit of a floor plan, and 5 years ago in this unit, whoever used to own the property installed a cabinet box. Point to the plans. There's no cabinet box here when we walked. They say you're right. Easy change order discussion. You're no longer going back and forth as to whether or not this was a part of your bid or not. Everything's there for everyone to evaluate. And it completely alleviates that discussion throughout the course of the project.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Kevin, I really appreciate you coming on. Is there anything else you want to tell us about TailorBird and how it's helping streamline takeoffs, where property owners can find you? Anything you'd like to share?
Yeah. We are in expansion mode, and we're always looking for new partners. We are extremely excited about the product we reviewed today that we've been able to work closely on with you guys and future product rollouts over the next coming year. We are in growth mode and looking to take on more work. We're really excited about what's in store. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're able to publish an email address or something, but we're TailorBird.us. I'm Kevin at TailorBird.us. Always happy to just get introductions and meet new folks. And I appreciate you having me on. This is fun.
Yeah. We'll have to have you in person here.
Yeah,
when
tell Eric Good. I want to come meet the team in person, and
Yeah.
I want to check out the podcast studio.
I know, brand new. You're the first one to kind of see it.
You look sharp, man. That's that's cool.
Great. Well, thanks again, Kevin. We'll keep in touch with you and have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, appreciate it. Nice to talk to you, Kyle.